The message appeared on Ethan Carter's phone at exactly 8:37 in the evening. 3 simple words lit up the screen. "Don't wait up." Ethan stared at the message while sitting on the couch in the quiet living room. The television was on, but the sound was low and he wasn't really watching anything. His eyes stayed on the phone for a long moment, as if the message might suddenly change into something else. But it didn't. He leaned back and rubbed his face slowly. The house felt unusually quiet tonight. The soft ticking of the clock on the wall sounded louder than normal, and the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen filled the empty spaces. Olivia had sent short messages before, but tonight this one felt different. There was something cold about it. No smiley face, no small heart emoji, no explanation, just 3 words, "Don't wait up." Ethan placed the phone on the coffee table and stared toward the dark window. Outside, the streetlights had already turned on, and a soft wind moved the branches of the trees along the road. He remembered a time when Olivia used to text him during the day just to say she missed him. Sometimes she would send funny pictures of things she saw at work. Sometimes she would call him while driving home, asking if he wanted pizza or pasta for dinner. Those days felt far away now. It hadn't happened suddenly. Nothing dramatic had broken their relationship. Instead, the distance had grown slowly, like a quiet fog moving into a room little by little. Over the past few months, Olivia had started coming home later than usual. At first, it was only once a week because of work meetings. Then twice. Then sometimes 3 nights in a row. Ethan had tried not to think too much about it. Her company had been growing, and she had recently gotten a promotion. More responsibility meant longer hours, at least. That was what she told him. But even when she was home, something about her had changed. She seemed distracted. Sometimes she would sit next to him on the couch but keep scrolling through her phone, smiling at messages he never saw. When Ethan asked who she was texting, she would say casually, "Just someone from work." And that was the end of the conversation. At first, Ethan didn't think much about it. But then one evening, he had heard her mention a name during a phone call in the kitchen. Mark. She had laughed at something. Mark said, not a polite laugh, a real one, the kind she used to give Ethan years ago. After that, the name appeared more often. Mark from the marketing department. Mark who helped her finish a project. Mark who brought coffee for the team in the morning. It wasn't anything serious. Just small mentions, but slowly. The name started living quietly in Ethan's thoughts. He had never met Mark. He didn't even know what the man looked like. But somehow the idea of him had become real. Ethan sighed and picked up his phone again. Olivia's message still stared back at him. "Don't wait up." He looked at the time again. 8:40. Normally, she would be home by 7. Maybe. She really was busy with work. Maybe he was imagining things, but something inside him felt uneasy. He opened their conversation and stared at the empty message box. His fingers hovered over the screen. For a moment, he thought about writing something normal, okay? Drive. Safe. But the words didn't come. Instead, a strange mix of frustration and curiosity pushed him to type something else. His thumbs moved slowly. "Hope you and Mark have a great evening." He looked at the sentence for a few seconds. Part of him wondered if he should delete it. It sounded almost like an accusation. But another part of him was tired of pretending everything felt normal. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe she would laugh. Or maybe he would finally understand something before he could change his mind. He pressed send. The message disappeared up the screen. Ethan dropped the phone back onto the table and leaned against the couch. For a moment, nothing happened. The room stayed quiet. The clock ticked. Outside, a car passed slowly down the street. Ethan picked up the remote and tried to focus on the television again. Some late-night talk show host was telling jokes, and the audience laughed loudly. But Ethan couldn't concentrate. His eyes kept drifting toward the phone. 10 seconds passed. 20 seconds. 30. Then, suddenly, the phone buzzed sharply on the table. Ethan looked down. Olivia was calling. That alone surprised him. She almost never called when she was out. Most of their conversations lately had happened through quick messages. He stared at the screen for a second before answering. "Hey," he said calmly. For a moment he heard only the faint sound of traffic on her side of the call. Then Olivia spoke. Her voice sounded different, a little breathless. "Why did you say that?" Ethan frowned slightly. "Say what?" "You know what?" she replied quickly. "That message about Mark." Ethan leaned back into the couch. "I was just guessing," he said. There was silence on the line, not the comfortable silence of two people thinking. It felt tense. Finally, Olivia spoke again. "Ethan, why would you think I'm with Mark?" He shrugged, even though she couldn't see him. "You've been spending a lot of time with him." Another pause. This one lasted longer. Ethan could hear faint sounds on her side again, maybe the door of a car closing, maybe footsteps on pavement. Then Olivia said something unexpected. "I'm not with Mark." Ethan blinked. "Oh?" He wasn't sure what else to say. Olivia's voice softened a little. "I'm actually heading home." Ethan sat up slightly. "You said not to wait up?" "No." There was a small hesitation in her tone before she continued. "But we need to talk." The words hung in the air for a second. Ethan felt his chest tighten slightly. "What about?" he asked. Olivia didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice sounded quieter. "About us." Before Ethan could respond, the call ended. He lowered the phone slowly. The living room suddenly felt very different. A few minutes ago, it had just been another quiet evening. Now the air felt heavier, like something important was about to happen. Ethan stood up and walked to the kitchen. He poured himself a glass of water and drank half of it in one long sip. His mind raced with thoughts. Had he pushed too far with that message? Maybe Olivia was angry. Maybe she felt accused. But if she was angry, why did she sound nervous? He walked back to the living room and looked around the house. Photos decorated the wall near the hallway. One showed him and Olivia at the beach 5 years ago, both of them laughing under the bright sun. Another picture showed them at a friend's wedding, dressed in elegant clothes and smiling at the camera. They had been together for 11 years, married. For 7, it felt impossible that something could change so much in such a short time. Ethan sat down again and waited 10 minutes. Past then 20. He checked the clock again. 9:18. Every small sound made him look toward the door. Finally, at 9:24, headlights appeared through the front window. A car slowed down outside the house. Ethan stood up without realizing it. The car engine stopped. A door closed. Footsteps moved along the walkway. The front door opened quietly. Olivia stepped inside. She looked a little windblown, like she had walked quickly from the car. Her dark hair fell loosely around her shoulders, and she still wore the same blue coat she had left with that morning. But something about her expression made Ethan freeze. She didn't look angry. She looked worried. Olivia closed the door behind her and stood there for a moment, as if she needed a second to gather her thoughts. Then her eyes met Ethan's. Neither of them spoke. The silence between them felt heavy with unspoken questions. Finally, Olivia walked into the living room slowly. She placed her purse on the chair and sat down across from him. Her hands rested in her lap, fingers loosely intertwined. For a few seconds, he simply looked at the floor. Then she lifted her eyes back to him. "Why did you think I was with Mark tonight?" she asked softly. Her voice was calm, but Ethan could feel the tension beneath it. He took a slow breath. The question was simple, but the answer carried months of quiet doubts. And deep down, Ethan realized something important. Whatever happened in the next few minutes, their marriage might never feel the same again. Olivia sat across from Ethan, her hands resting on her knees, fingers nervously twisting together. The soft hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen was the only sound breaking the silence. The living room felt smaller now, heavier, as if the air itself was waiting for something to happen. Ethan leaned forward slightly, elbows on his knees, studying her face. There were small shadows under her eyes, the kind that came from sleepless nights and worry. Her lips were pressed together in a thin line, as if she was trying to hold something back. "Why didn't you just tell me?" Ethan asked finally, his voice quiet, careful, but tinged with a mix of hurt and frustration. He didn't want to accuse her, not really. But after months of distance and that one message, he needed honesty. Olivia lifted her eyes. They were glistening, just a hint of moisture in the corners, but her expression was calm. "Because I wasn't sure what I was feeling," she said softly. "Because I didn't want to hurt you. And because I didn't fully understand myself." Shh. Ethan nodded slowly, trying to keep his emotions in check. I felt left out, invisible, like you were somewhere else, even when you were home." Her gaze dropped again. "You're right," she admitted. "I was somewhere else, but not because I wanted to be with someone else." She paused. Ethan leaned forward, waiting. Her hands moved nervously. "Mark, he noticed me in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. He made me laugh in the middle of stressful days. He complimented my work, my ideas. Small things, but they mattered because I was craving attention I hadn't been giving myself." Ethan's chest tightened. He had suspected that much, but hearing her say it out loud made it real. It stung. Yes, but it wasn't betrayal. At least, not exactly. "And me?" he asked quietly. "Did I stop noticing you?" Olivia looked at him directly now, and her eyes softened. "Not completely. But somewhere along the way, our life got busy. Work, routines, chores, responsibilities. We stopped noticing each other in the way we used to. I stopped noticing you the way I should have. And that scared me." Ethan exhaled, his shoulders slumping slightly. "So, tonight, when you were out, what were you thinking about?" His voice was calm, but he couldn't hide the tremor underneath. "I was sitting alone at a small cafe, since," her voice low and steady. "Just thinking. Thinking about us. Thinking about what we've become. And what I might be missing." She paused, biting her lip. "And then, your message came." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. "The one about Mark?" he asked softly. She nodded. "Yes, and it made me panic." Her voice cracked just slightly, not because I was with him, but because it made me realize how far we've drifted. It made me think about life without you, and that terrified me." Ethan didn't respond immediately. The words hung in the air, heavier than anything else that had happened tonight. He realized that the message he had sent, half a joke, half a test, had worked in an unexpected way. It had made her see herself, see them, and see what mattered. I didn't know," Ethan said finally, his voice quiet. "I thought you might be—" He trailed off, unsure of the words. "Cheating?" she asked softly. Her eyes met his, steady now. "No, Ethan, I would never. I was just confused and scared. Scared that we were slowly becoming strangers to each other." Ethan leaned back in the couch, rubbing his temples. His mind was racing. It was true. He had noticed the distance, the small gaps that had grown over months, maybe years. But hearing Olivia admit it aloud made it undeniable. He felt a mix of guilt and relief for not noticing her feelings sooner. Relief that nothing had actually happened with Mark. "Mark likes me," Olivia said suddenly, and Ethan's stomach tightened. He didn't know if he should be relieved or anxious. Ethan's voice was quiet. "And you. I never let anything happen," she said firmly, shaking her head. "It was never about him. It was about noticing something I had forgotten. Noticing what I wanted in my life." He looked at her carefully. "And what is that?" Her eyes softened and a small, bittersweet smile formed on her lips. "I wanted to feel alive again. But not by leaving you. Not by breaking us, just by remembering what it's like to feel seen." Ethan felt his chest loosen slightly. The weight of suspicion and fear was lifting slowly, replaced by something quieter, a mix of understanding and longing. "So you weren't falling for him?" he asked, needing to hear it again. "No," she said firmly. "I was realizing something about us, about what we stopped doing for each other, about how easy it is to drift apart without noticing it." Ethan's mind drifted back over the years. The long nights of work, the quiet weekends, the missed birthdays, and the forgotten small gestures. He realized she was right. Both of them had been drifting, and neither had fully acknowledged it until now. He exhaled slowly. "So, what do we do now?" he asked, his voice quiet. Olivia leaned back slightly, crossing her arms loosely. "We talk, we notice each other again. We stop pretending the small things don't matter. We start choosing each other." Her gaze met his. "Do you want to?" Ethan didn't hesitate. "Yes." His hand reached out slowly, unsure if she would take it. But she did. Their fingers intertwined, and the tension in the room shifted. The quiet became warm. Safe. Olivia let out a small sigh. "You have no idea how much I needed to hear that tonight." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "I needed to hear your truth, too, even if it hurt at first." She smiled faintly. "It did scare me, your message, but it also reminded me of what's important." She looked at him seriously. "We can't stop noticing each other. Not after tonight. Not ever again." Ethan nodded. "We won't." For a moment, they sat in silence, holding hands, letting the weight of the evening sink in. Outside, the streetlights cast soft, golden shadows across the living room. It felt different, now lighter, though still serious. Olivia's voice broke the quiet. "I need to be honest about something else," she said softly. "Mark actually asked me to dinner tonight." Ethan felt his chest tighten again. "And I told him I couldn't, that I needed to go home and talk to my husband." Her voice was gentle, firm, and full of clarity. Ethan exhaled slowly, relief washing over him in waves. "Good, I'm glad." She smiled faintly, leaning back against the couch. "You know, tonight could have gone a very different way." He nodded slowly. "Yes, but it didn't." "And that's what matters," she said, her fingers still laced with his. "We're here. We're talking, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like we can start over." Ethan looked at her, really looked, and saw the same woman he had fallen in love with years ago. Not perfect, not flawless, but real, honest, and willing to fight for what mattered. He leaned forward slightly. "I don't want us to drift again. Not like this. I want to notice you. Every day. Even the small things." Olivia's eyes softened. "Then I'll notice you too." There was a pause, a long one. And then she said quietly, almost like a whisper, "Ethan, I love you." Even after tonight, Ethan's chest tightened, and he felt a warmth spread through him. "I love you too, Olivia, especially after tonight." For the first time in months, maybe years, the tension in the room dissolved completely. The fear, the worry, the small doubts, they were still there, but lighter, manageable, something they could face together. Olivia leaned closer, resting her head gently on his shoulder. Ethan put his arm around her, holding her close. The living room was quiet again, but this time it felt alive, full of possibility, full of small hope. Outside, the streetlights flickered, casting moving shadows across the walls. Inside, the warmth of honesty, fear, and love mixed together in a way that felt fragile but real. Ethan realized that tonight. A simple message, a message meant as a small jab. A test, maybe even a joke, had done more than just stir fear. It had opened a door to conversations they had both avoided, a door to understanding, a door to choosing each other again. Olivia lifted her head slightly, looking at him. "We have a lot to fix," she said softly, almost smiling. Ethan nodded, smiling back. "Yes, and we will. Together." She rested her head back on his shoulder, and for the first time in a long time, the house felt like home again. Safe, warm, and full of life. But both of them knew that this was just the beginning. They had faced the fear, the jealousy, the distance. They had admitted the truth. Now the real work would begin, and for the first time, they were ready to face it together. The quiet in the living room after Olivia rested her head on Ethan's shoulder was different from the silence earlier. It wasn't tense anymore. It was calm, heavy with understanding and careful hope. Ethan could feel her warmth beside him. And for a moment, he let himself just breathe, listening to the soft rhythm of her breathing, the faint hum of the refrigerator, and the occasional car passing outside. Ethan, Olivia said quietly, lifting her head slightly to look at him. I need to be honest about more than just tonight. He nodded, already bracing himself. He had learned tonight that honesty was both painful and freeing. I'm listening, he said softly. She took a slow breath. I've realized something about our life. About how easy it is to drift apart without even noticing. About how we can feel close and distant at the same time. Her eyes searched his. I don't want us to drift again. Ethan held her gaze, feeling the weight of her words. Neither do I, he said. I don't want to lose you. Not to distance. Not to routine. Not to life. Olivia nodded, the small movement gentle but determined. And I don't want to lose you either, she whispered. I realized tonight that I wasn't falling for Mark, but that I was reminded of something we both stopped doing. Not because we stopped loving each other, but because we stopped choosing each other every day. Ethan's chest tightened. He understood exactly what she meant. They had built a life together, yes, but somewhere along the way, the little things, small gestures, small attentions, had fallen away. And without noticing it, they had started taking each other for granted. So, we start over. He asked, his voice calm but full of hope. Olivia smiled softly, a tiny, almost shy smile. Yes, we start over, but we have to do it properly. No pretending. No ignoring what's important. We have to notice each other again. Every day. Ethan reached out and took her hand in his, holding it gently. Then we will. I'll notice you. Every single day. Even the small things. And I'll tell you how much you mean to me. No more guessing. No more silence. She squeezed his hand, a silent promise passing between them. And I'll do the same. I'll notice you too. And I'll tell you when something feels wrong or distant. I won't hide it anymore. They sat together for a moment, holding hands, letting the weight of months of quiet fears, doubts, and distance settle between them. But instead of feeling heavy, it felt manageable. It felt alive. Ethan, Olivia said after a while. Her voice quieter now, thoughtful. Mark actually asked me to have dinner tonight. He invited me out. Ethan's stomach tightened, but he forced himself to stay calm. And what did you say? He asked carefully. I told him I needed to go home, she said, her eyes steady on his. I needed to come back to you. To remember what really matters. Ethan felt relief wash over him. Not just relief that nothing had happened, but relief that she had chosen him consciously and fully. I'm glad, he said simply. Olivia's gaze softened. You know, tonight could have gone a very different way, she admitted. It could have ended in anger or distance or worse. But we talked. We were honest. And that's what matters. Ethan nodded slowly. Yes, tonight we faced the truth. And the truth brought us back together. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. Outside, the streetlights flickered gently, casting long shadows across the living room walls. Inside, Ethan and Olivia sat together, letting the quiet wrap around them like a warm blanket. Olivia leaned her head on his shoulder again. Do you remember the first time we stayed up talking all night? She asked softly. Before marriage. When we couldn't stop laughing and sharing dreams and plans? Ethan smiled faintly. Yes, you were so excited about life, about everything. I thought I'd never sleep because you kept talking. She laughed quietly, a soft, nostalgic sound. And I thought I'd never stop talking because I felt like I could tell you anything. Maybe we should start talking like that again, Ethan said, his voice quiet but hopeful. Not just about work or routines or problems, but about life, dreams, little things, everything. Olivia looked up at him, her eyes shining. I'd like that, she said. I want us to feel alive again, together. Ethan nodded. Then we will. Starting now. They sat quietly, hands still intertwined, feeling the connection return slowly but surely. It wasn't instant. It wouldn't magically erase months of distance or neglect. But it was a beginning, a choice to be present with each other again, to notice each other. To protect the fragile thread that had started to fray, Olivia shifted slightly, resting her head fully on his shoulder this time. "I was scared tonight," she admitted softly. "Scared that we had grown too far apart. Scared that you might be imagining a life without me. Scared that maybe I had stopped being enough." Ethan tightened his hold on her hand. "You are more than enough," he said firmly. "And I'll make sure you never doubt that again. Not now, not ever." She let out a quiet sigh, a mixture of relief and lingering worry. "I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that you still see me. That you still want me. That our life together still matters to you." Ethan smiled faintly. "Of course it matters. More than anything." They sat together, breathing quietly, feeling the tension melt slowly into comfort. Outside, the night passed quietly, stars hidden behind the city lights. But inside the living room, something bright had returned. A sense of hope, fragile but real. Ethan glanced at the clock. It was late, but neither of them felt tired in the usual sense. They had been awake emotionally for months, carrying quiet frustrations, small doubts, unspoken questions. Tonight had forced them to confront all of it. Olivia shifted again, looking at him with a soft, serious expression. "Ethan, there's one more thing I need to say," she said carefully. He looked at her, waiting. "I want us to promise something," she continued. "Promise that if either of us ever feels invisible, distant, or unnoticed again, we talk immediately. No silence. No pretending. We face it together as soon as it happens." Ethan nodded firmly. "I promise. No hiding, no avoiding. We face it together every time." She smiled faintly, her eyes bright despite the late hour. "Good, because I want us to last. I want us to really choose each other every day." Ethan reached out and brushed a stray strand of hair from her face. "And we will. I choose you. Every day." Olivia's lips curved into a small, relieved smile. "Even after tonight. Especially after tonight," he said. For the first time that evening, Ethan felt a quiet peace settle in his chest. The fear, the anxiety, the doubts, they were still there, but lighter, manageable. And most importantly, they had faced them together. Olivia leaned her head back on his shoulder, and Ethan wrapped his arm around her. They sat there in silence, listening to the soft sounds of the night. It was peaceful, but not empty. It was full of unspoken promises, new beginnings, and the fragile certainty of love renewed. "You know," Olivia said softly after a while, "I don't think Mark will ask me again, because now he knows. I'm with you." Ethan felt a quiet humor in that, a small relief mingling with warmth. "Good," he said, smiling faintly, "because there's no one else I want to be with either." She laughed quietly, resting her head fully on his shoulder now, feeling safe, seen, and loved. "Then we really are choosing each other," she said softly. "Yes," Ethan said, his voice steady and sure. "We are, and we will. Every day." They sat together, hands intertwined, hearts slowly calming after months of tension. Outside, the world moved on, unaware of the quiet battle. It's the quiet reckoning that had happened inside that small living room. But inside, something had shifted. A fragile, beautiful understanding had returned. Ethan realized then that the night, with all its fear, jealousy, and confusion, had done something important. It had reminded them that love wasn't about avoiding difficulties. It wasn't about pretending everything was perfect. It was about seeing each other fully, honestly, and choosing each other despite everything. Olivia lifted her head slightly again, meeting his gaze. "I love you, Ethan, and I don't just mean the easy days. I mean tonight and all the nights we've grown distant. I choose you, even when it's hard." Ethan felt a rush of emotion, a mixture of relief, love, and quiet gratitude. "I love you too, Olivia. And I choose you. Even tonight, even when it was scary. Especially tonight." For the first time in months, Ethan felt like he could breathe. The weight of months of worry and unspoken fears had been lifted, replaced by something steady, honest, and warm. Olivia leaned back fully against him now, eyes closing, feeling safe in his presence. Ethan held her gently, thinking about all the days and years ahead. About noticing her. About talking. About choosing her again and again. Outside the street was quiet, the night deep and calm. Inside the living room felt alive, full of possibility, love, and the quiet power of honesty. The message that had started the evening, the message that could have broken everything, had instead forced them to face the truth. And that truth had brought them closer than they had been in months. Ethan kissed the top of her head gently, holding her close. "We'll be okay," he whispered. "Together, we'll be okay." Olivia smiled faintly, her heart lighter than it had been in a long time. "Yes," she whispered back. "Together, we'll be okay." And in that moment, for the first time in months, both of them truly believed it. That despite fear, confusion, and distance, love could survive. And tonight had proven that choosing each other again fully and honestly could heal the cracks that had started to appear.